There is a quiet voice inside you that never truly goes silent, waiting for moments of stillness to remind you of your past and quietly shape what you believe about yourself. It does not come when the world is loud. It waits. It waits for the night, when the noise fades and the distractions fall away. It waits for those small, empty spaces in your day, when your hands are still, when your eyes have nothing to follow, when there is nowhere left to run. And then, almost gently, it arrives. At first, you barely notice it. It speaks in a tone that feels familiar, almost comforting. It does not interrupt you, it joins you. It feels like a continuation of your own thinking, like a natural extension of your awareness. You do not question it because why would you question your own voice? It begins with something small. A memory. Not a significant one, just a moment. A conversation you wish had gone differently. A decision you regret. A version of yourself that feels distant, yet uncomfortably close. The voice presents it calmly, without force, as if it is simply reminding you of something you had forgotten. Do you remember that? And you do. At first it feels harmless, even useful. Reflection, you tell yourself, is how you grow. Looking back is how you learn, so you allow it. You follow the memory, turning it over in your mind, examining it from different angles. But then something shifts. The voice changes, not in volume but in meaning. It no longer just shows you the memory. It begins to interpret it. You shouldn't have done that. The words are soft, almost reasonable, and because they feel reasonable, you accept them. You nod internally, agreeing without resistance. After all, it sounds like truth. The voice continues. You always do this. Now the moment is no longer just a moment. It has become a pattern. A single mistake stretches into something larger, something permanent. You begin to see it not as an isolated event, but as evidence of who you are. The weight grows. Another memory appears, then another. Each one carefully selected, each one carrying a quiet sting. Moments of failure, embarrassment, missed opportunities, things you said, things you didn't say. And with each one, the voice adds something more. A judgment. You're not good enough. You never learn. This is just who you are. It does not shout these things. It doesn't need to. It whispers them with calm certainty, as if stating facts that have always been true. And because it sounds like you, because it speaks in your own internal tone, you believe it. That is its greatest strength. If it sounded like someone else, if it were harsh, aggressive, or unfamiliar, you might resist it. You might question it. But it doesn't. It blends in perfectly, hiding behind the illusion of self. And so you trust it. You begin to listen more closely. You give it your attention. And with attention, it grows stronger. What once felt like reflection now feels heavier. The past is no longer something you observe. It becomes something you carry. Each memory feels sharper, more defined, more important than it ever was in reality. The voice doesn't lie outright. That's not how it works. Instead, it reshapes. It takes real events and wraps them in meaning, meaning that slowly begins to define you. It connects dots that were never meant to be connected. It turns moments into patterns, patterns into identity. And without realizing it, you begin to see yourself through its lens. You hesitate more, you doubt more. You replay things longer than you should. Simple decisions become complicated, weighed down by echoes of the past. The voice is always there, ready to remind you. Don't forget who you are. And that is when the trap closes. Because you start to believe that this voice is not just speaking to you, it is you. Its words feel like your thoughts. Its judgments feel like your conclusions. Its perspective feels like your truth. You stop questioning it entirely. And once you stop questioning it, it becomes authority. There are moments, brief, almost invisible, when something inside you resists. A faint sense that this weight is unnecessary. A quiet thought that perhaps these memories do not mean what the voice claims they mean. But those moments are fleeting. The voice is patient. It has been with you for a long time. It knows your patterns. It knows your weaknesses. And most importantly, it knows that as long as you believe it, it does not need to prove anything. So it continues. It brings up another memory, another interpretation, another quiet conclusion about who you are and who you will always be. And you listen. Not because you want to, but because you don't know how not to. Over time, the silence you once enjoyed begins to feel uncomfortable. You start to avoid it. You reach for distractions, your phone, noise, anything to fill the space. Because in silence, the voice is waiting. And you know it. You know that the moment everything slows down, it will return. Calm, familiar, convincing. And you will listen again. By now, the line between your thoughts and the voice has almost disappeared. It feels natural, automatic. You no longer notice when it begins speaking because it never really stopped. Your mind, once a place of freedom, now feels like something else. A place where the past is constantly replayed. A place where every mistake is preserved. A place where judgment never fully fades. And yet you still call it yourself. That is the illusion. The quiet, dangerous illusion that the voice in your head is always telling the truth, when in reality, it has been shaping your truth all along. And as you sit there, in another moment of stillness, listening to it once again, a question almost begins to form, but not clearly enough to stop it. Not yet, the voice returns as it always does. It finds you again in a moment of stillness, quiet, patient, familiar. It brings with it another memory, another reminder, another quiet conclusion waiting to be accepted. But this time, something is different. You don't respond immediately. There is a pause, not in the voice but in you. For the first time, instead of following the thought, you notice it. Not what it says, but that it is speaking. The shift is small, almost invisible, yet it carries a weight the voice has never accounted for. Because for the first time, you are not inside the thought. You are watching it. The voice continues, as if nothing has changed. Here it is again, it whispers. Another mistake, another reason you'll never change. But the words land differently now. A question forms, clearer than before. If this voice is me, why does it speak against me? The thought lingers. The voice does not answer. It simply moves on as it always has, offering another memory, another quiet judgment. But something has already broken. Not the voice. The illusion. You begin to see it, not as truth but as a pattern. A loop. The same tone, the same kind of memories, the same conclusions repeated in different forms. It has been doing this for years and you never noticed. Not because it was hidden, but because it felt so familiar you never thought to question it. Now you do. Is this actually true? You ask silently. The voice does not disappear. It responds the only way it knows how, by insisting. Of course it is. Look at your past. And so you look. But this time, you look differently. You see the same moments, but without immediately accepting the meaning attached to them. The events are still there, unchanged. What you said, what you did, what you regret. But something is missing. The weight. You begin to realize that the event and the judgment were never the same thing. One happened, the other was added. The voice tries again. You failed. But now, instead of absorbing the statement, you examine it. Yes, something didn't go as planned. Yes, a mistake was made. But does that mean you are a failure? For the first time, the answer is not immediate. And in that hesitation, the voice weakens. Because the voice does not survive on truth, it survives on certainty, on your automatic agreement, on your willingness to accept without questioning. And now that certainty is gone, you begin to notice something else. The voice is repetitive. It does not create anything new. It recycles the same memories, the same interpretations, the same conclusions over and over again. It is not guiding you forward. It is keeping you still, anchored to what has already happened. A realization settles in, quiet but firm. This voice is not wisdom. It is habit. A pattern built over time, reinforced through repetition, strengthened every time you believed it without question. And like any habit, it only continues if you allow it. The voice speaks again, but now it feels distant, like hearing something from another room. You'll never change. You let the words pass. Not by fighting them, not by trying to silence them, but by refusing to follow them. They appear and then they fade. For the first time, you see that you have a choice. Not over whether the thoughts appear, but over whether they stay. You shift your attention, not to the past, not to the voice, but to what is in front of you, what is real, what is within your control. Your breathing, your posture, your next action. Simple things, present things. The voice tries to pull you back. That doesn't matter, this is who you are. But now the words feel empty. Because you see the gap. The space between the thought and yourself. And in that space, there is something the voice can never touch. Control. You begin to understand something deeper, something that was always there, waiting beneath the noise. You were never the voice. You were the one listening. And if you are the one listening, you can also choose not to believe. The past does not disappear. It remains exactly as it is, unchanged, untouched. But its power begins to fade because you are no longer feeding it meaning. You stop arguing with it. You stop trying to rewrite it. You simply stop letting it define you. The voice grows quieter. Not because it is gone, but because it is no longer being heard the same way. It speaks, but it no longer commands. It suggests, but it no longer convinces. It exists, but it no longer controls. Silence returns. But this time it feels different. It is not heavy, it is not threatening, it does not carry the weight of expectation or judgment, it is just stillness. Clean, open, free. And within that silence you remain. Not as the voice, not as the past, but as something far more stable. The observer, the one who sees clearly, the one who chooses. A final thought passes through your mind, not from the voice, but from a place deeper, steadier. You cannot control what has happened, but you can control what you believe about it. And in that understanding, something shifts completely. The past loosens its grip. The voice loses its authority. And your mind, once a place of conflict, becomes something else entirely. A place of discipline. A place of clarity. A place that finally belongs to you.